ABC News national security analyst and former U.S. Homeland Security Advisor Tom Bossert joins us. Tom, let's just bring folks up to date right now with regard to military assets. We've got more than 5,000 American forces stationed in Poland. That's where our Phil Lipoff is. He's been paying attention to the 82nd Airborne, other air assets that have responded now and are engaged. This role has been changing from deter and assure to being deployed to the border, checkpoints, also to help with the possible flow of traffic. A lot of different missions going on here. Is there a particular reason for Putin's timing on all of this? I mean, clearly the U.S. is responding, but when you look at this overall effort and try to figure out what exactly is going through Vladimir Putin's mind, which is not an easy thing to do, what do you make of his timing now?
Yeah, Kira, there's really two timing questions that are high on my mind. The first is, how long has this been planned? And clearly it's been planned for a long time. Most are speculating at least a year, perhaps as far back as that SolarWinds cyber attack that you saw that gave the Russians access to our federal government systems. So this is the type of thing that wasn't a spontaneous decision on his part. So the why now question really has to be answered by looking into his thinking a year or two ago when he made the decision to start this effort. And then the second timing question is really, how long can it last? A future question. And in that regard, I'm watching China. The sanctions that we're about to announce, the sanctions that have already been applied, and the rest of the global pressure on Russia is going to strangle its operating budget. Remember, these sanctions at this stage aren't so much about deterrence anymore as they are punishment. But Putin went into this knowing what he would face. So he has some assurance in his mind that he's willing, or that his people are willing, to endure some suffering. So if China helps them kind of offset the effect of these sanctions, that's going to extend the clock and allow this to, I think, shift into ongoing and maybe kind of persistent tensions. If China doesn't help them, I think Russia's on a limited string here. They can only afford to keep this up for so long.
All right, so if Russia's on a limited string here, can only afford to keep this going for so long, what about Ukraine and putting Ukraine and Russia up against each other? Who's going to be able to last the longest?
Yeah, I don't mean to make that analysis and take it lightly. That in it, I recognize the Ukrainian military is so outmatched. The Russian military is formidable, and the Ukrainian response capacity is not even really in the same league. So I don't think military resistance is going to last for very long. The Ukrainian people are showing a lot of resilience, and there will be a resistance. But without outside military assistance, the Ukrainian military will be outmatched and overrun. I think we're seeing that play out before our eyes. Now, does it shift into exchanges, defenses, insurgency-type battles? I believe it will. But in terms of short-term predictions, the Ukrainian military is not up to the task.
So when you think about Putin and why he's doing this now, why didn't he do this under former President Trump? Why is he choosing to do this under the leadership of Joe Biden?
Well, there's a few things there I don't know. Of course, climbing into Putin's mind is hard to do. And certainly none of us know what President Trump said exactly to President Putin in their private conversations. It is possible, of course, that President Putin assessed that President Trump would either pull back from his NATO obligations or in some way divide Europe in a way that was favorable to President Putin's interests. But again, I think you also have to recognize that elections influence all of these leaders. And President Putin has, subsequent to and unrelated to President Trump or President Biden, gone through his own internal Russian election process. And I think come to the determination that his tenure doesn't have that much longer. He's not as popular as people would have you believe. And then I think, importantly, Kira, the Chinese here have played into his timing. The Chinese have given Putin the assurances, for the first time in history, that his flank on the Chinese border is safe, and he can move his military off of his southern and off of his eastern borders away from China and redeploy them to this purpose without fearing what's going to happen in his backyard in his back door. So he's left his back door open and exposed to China, knowing that China is not going to exploit him. That's a significant development, and it's independent of our U.S. domestic administration change.
But it also looks like that Putin is not afraid of Joe Biden either, that he witnessed what happened with Afghanistan, and now he's seizing an opportunity to test the waters here. I mean, he clearly is behaving differently with Biden than he did with Trump. Do you think he sees Biden as weak, and that this is his opportunity to just spread his wings even more over territories that he's been wanting to seize for some time?
Well, he ought not to. That might be one of the themes going in our domestic political debate, but I don't see it. He ought to be afraid of the United States, and he ought to be afraid of the United States when they act collectively with all of our European and Western partners. I don't see much to this whole interpersonal diagnosis that's going on. I understand that President Trump would have had the same limitations. Remember, he put weapons in the hands of Ukraine to help fight against the Russians, so the Javelin missiles and so forth, the Javelin anti-tank weaponry. But at the same time, he was calling on NATO allies to pay more money. So, Kira, we'll see how it plays out, and we'll hear from the president.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.